DDS, DMD. You just got into dental school, and now it's time for you to get through dental school. Getting in was probably the easiest part, as today's guest will probably share with you, because you've got 4 years of dental school that is a challenge. Each year gets even more challenging, and we'll tell you a little bit about that. But today, we're going to be talking about surviving the first 3 years of dental school. So, check this out. Let's get to the hardest thing first. All right, Dot, tell us, what has been the hardest part about these first 2.5, 3 years of dental school for you?
Yeah, so at each junction, there's definitely a different challenge, but I'll start out with the most recent challenge was definitely adjusting to clinic, getting used to, being the person in the room who's making decisions. You go from being in the classroom, you're learning a lot of things, you're taking in a lot of information, but then when it comes to applying that, you have a patient that's looking at you for the end all be all answer. They're looking at you for the response, the solution to their pain. And so I think that taking on that role and owning that, being confident in what you're saying and what and what you've been taught is probably was the hardest, transition to make. But of course, first year, second year, especially first year was those studying days, every day it felt like, you're putting in multiple hours. So adjusting to that was always tough. But, once you get to second year, you get the hang of it and, but definitely, adjusting to that, taking on that bigger role as the provider was definitely the biggest challenge this year. But, with each day and each appointment, we get better and better.
Welcome to another episode of Ask Dr. Darwin on the New Dentist Podcast Show. Advance the New Dentist Podcast Show. This is the opportunity for you to learn ways that you can not only get into dental school, get into residency, but survive those challenging and very rigorous parts of your dental education and advanced dental education as well. You guys be sure that you're sharing, that you're liking, that you're commenting. If you have any questions, put them down in the chat. We're always want to get more feedback from you about how we can continue to bring this content to you and how it is transforming and really assisting you in your journey in becoming a dentist or an advanced trained dentist as well. Also, this episode of Ask Dr. Darwin is being brought to you by Dr. Darwin On Demand, which is a membership community for pre-dental students, current dental students, and for docs who are looking for an opportunity to interact with and learn with and from colleagues from all different parts of the dental profession. For more details, check out the link down below and go to Dr. Darwin On Demand, okay? So today we are, I can't believe this, man. It's been 3 years. It's been 3 years since the last time we talked.
Time is flying.
Time is flying, man. Time is flying. Today we're joined with a student doctor who's has had a very interesting journey these last 3 years and even the years before getting into dental school. So, Doc, please introduce yourself or reintroduce yourself for people who are meeting you for the first time, or if you saw this episode, where is it at? Where is it at? Boom. If you saw this episode a couple years ago, you know who it is. But if you didn't see that episode, go watch it. All right. There'll be give you some context, but go ahead, Doc.
What's going on, everybody? My name is Xion Johnson, student Dr. Xion Johnson. I'm from Atlanta, Georgia. I went to Morehouse College for undergrad. I graduated, took a gap year, and then applied to schools. And I, now attend Tufts University School of Dental Medicine. I'm in my third year, which feels insane to say because time has absolutely flown by. I think, the last time we talked, I had, gotten in and I was getting ready to go. So it feels surreal to be, headed into my second semester of third year and, almost, making that segue into the last year. So, um, grateful to be here. Always good to talk to you, Doc. And yeah.
Yeah, man. So just real quick, just give us a recap as to why you picked dentistry.
So for me, dentistry, I love going to the dentist, and I had some work done when I was younger. I had braces twice. I had an underbite, so I was in the dentist chair far more often than probably your average kid. But all of my dentists also happened to look like me. My parents went to Fisk, so they had a lot of friends that went to Meharry, and a lot of association with that. So they always made sure to find doctors and dentists that looked like us. And so that inspiration was always there. And I always knew I wanted to be a doctor. I thought I wanted to be an oncologist, but I figured I'd pick something that a little more lighthearted. And so my dentists were always the people who were very encouraging to me. And I love going to the dentist. So I said, let's give it a shot. Let's see what this is about. And sure
Yeah.
enough, I shadowed. Got some more encouragement, and here we are. Almost to those two letters in front of our name. So,
That's right.
so
Two letters in front of your name and the three behind it too. You worked hard for all those
exactly,
letters, right?
exactly.
Especially at the school that you're at. Tell us little bit about uh, why you picked Tufts, right? Because second largest dental school in the country.
Yes, yes. Tufts. It's funny enough, it really wasn't even on my list to begin with. But
What?
yeah, it was crazy. It really wasn't even on my list. But I had some friends and classmates that had went there, and they're actually in the year above me. They're about to graduate, but I would always see them, and looking like they were really enjoying themselves in school. And sure enough, I interviewed, I got in, and when I went to visit, I saw the amount of diversity that Tufts had. I saw the camaraderie that they had between all their students, even for it being such a huge class. The diversity is, impeccable. I remember them breaking down the class sizes, or the class, breakdown. And when I tell you it was 20% of everything, 20%, this, 20% that, 20% that, and you really see it when you're in the school because, it's not just a sea of one kind of people. You're getting people from all backgrounds, countries, international students, all walks of life, which is, I think, one of the coolest parts of Tufts. Um, and just, the way that everyone interacts, it doesn't feel like a huge school. Like it feels like, a bunch of people working together, which I really value. When you're doing something so strenuous as going to dental school and, pursuing a professional degree. I think that's one of the most invaluable things that you can
Yeah,
really get.
yeah. Well, shout out for Tufts for being one of several schools in the last 10 to 8, well, probably in the last 5 to 8 years that have really been very intentional about making sure that not only the dental class, but the people that they're serving is representative of the people that they're teaching, right?
Mhm.
That they're
Absolutely.
developing as the next future leaders in oral health. So shout out to Tufts and probably several other schools as well. But just want to say that. So for those of you that are looking into dental schools, if you haven't put Tufts on your list, put it on your list to at least explore and investigate. Maybe something you may find something that is appealing to you and that's a good fit for you as well, right? Um, a good fit is also required to get through D1, D2, D3 years. So we're going to be talking a little bit about that, about things that you did to survive these last 3 years. You mentioned a little bit earlier about some of the transitions from D1 to D2 and now being in clinic pretty much more full time than the first 2 years. But let's go back to things that you heard about the second year, and even now the third year that you're halfway through. What did you hear beforehand about these 2 years, like whether from upperclassmen or from other maybe colleagues at different schools that maybe shared their perspectives about their D2 and D3 year before you started? What were some of the things that you heard about?
The biggest thing that I heard for D2 was, you still have a lot of exams, projects, or exams, but the amount of projects that you have is intensified. So, you're of course taking removable partial denture courses, you're taking complete denture courses, and they also have their lab associated. So you're doing a lot of projects. So it's a lot more hands-on work. You're basically learning how to be the lab technician in a sense. Um, and so that was the bulk of D2. And honestly, when I would ask people, they would say, yeah, you're going to be at school a lot. You plan to be at school from, 8 or 9 o'clock to, 5 or 6 o'clock, doing projects or being here on the weekends. Maybe you have to do an endo project. Um, it was just a number of projects, and it lived up to its hype, I must say. We were always there. Felt like, on the weekends, if it was operative, it was, in the simulation clinic, drilling. You may have been down in the pre-clinic, doing some denture work, setting teeth. Um, there's always a project to do. Excuse me. Um, and then D3, of course, they say, okay, now you're going into the clinic. It's a different type of busy, because you're not necessarily studying, but you're busy with patients it could be from 9 to 7. So, you do make your own schedule. So there's a little bit more flexibility in everything that's going on, but, you're still busy to a degree because there's always something to do, in ensuring that the level of patient care that you're, offering and serving to your patient population is, up to par. So I would say those are the two things that I really heard. And honestly, everyone's been pretty spot on, I must say. So, and I think that's the beautiful thing about having upperclassmen, to ask, and get insight on, and, kind of get your bearings before you get into, D2 year, D3 year. You have an idea of what you're getting yourself into. You're not just kind of jumping into madness and chaos. So, you can kind of set your feet and get prepared, which is nice.
Yeah, get prepared for at least some of what you're going to go through. Uh, so tap into those big brothers, big sister programs, big sid, whatever you have at your school, because they will give you direct insight as to what to expect. Um, hey everyone, it's Dr. Darwin. Just want to take a quick break from this episode and hope that you are enjoying it. First thing I want to ask is, did you know that a large majority of the individuals like you who watch these episodes are not subscribed to the channel, to the YouTube channel? Nevertheless, we want to say thank you for watching and continuing to share these videos and episodes with others. Next, I want to say is subscribe. Yes, please hit the subscribe button so that you get these notifications each time these episodes are released. Last is I wanted to connect with those of you who are seeking to become an advanced dentist and specialist. And I invite you to our next event called the Get Into Dental Residency Challenge. This is a special 4-day event that will give you direct access to the mistakes that you want to avoid when you're applying to residency programs, and also the 8 steps that you also want to avoid so that you do not have an unsuccessful application submission. The information that we will be covering over those 4 days will be some of the tips and strategies that I teach in my one-on-one and group coaching trainings with clients who are continually and successfully being matched into and selected into high-profile residency programs here in North America. So if you're pursuing or aspiring to get into dental residency this application cycle, this challenge is for you. Check out the link below to receive more details and join the challenge. And also, I would encourage you to enroll in the challenge via the VIP experience. The VIP experience gives you actually access to a 1 hour Q&A session every day of the challenge before we actually get started with the challenge. And it guarantees me to answer your specific questions that you and other VIP experience members have on a daily basis. So I'll see you in the Get Into Dental Residency Challenge, and let's get back to this episode. Did anyone share with you also how to prepare? Did they say, hey, do this, do that? These are the things that you're going to be up against. So because of that, make sure that you're doing A, B, and C. So how did you prepare for any of these transitions into
But yeah,
D2 and D3 year?
definitely. Honestly, we have a VIP system at our school. So, we have a fourth year, third year, second year, and first year. And, the first year is the little to the second year. And, it goes on and on up until the fourth year. And, luckily enough, I'm really close with my D4 big. And he's really, really always been on top of his stuff in terms of clinic, even, academically. He's always been on top of his thing. So I could always go to him and just get advice. And, especially in our D3 year, he's on top of his things in clinic, and somebody that people really um, go to for advice, questions, in, kind of getting through clinic. And so I had a perfect person to ask and, be set up for clinic and kind of showing me the ropes. And like, even before when I'm assisting him, we would be going through things, getting me ready for that. So when I stepped in, it felt like it could have been a lot more strenuous, but it wasn't because I had that, prior help and advice, coming in. And so I think that with D2 year with the projects are the projects, you can get some advice, but at the end of the day, it's going to be a learning curve regardless. And so um, you can get a little bit of advice, but at the end of the day, I think it really comes down to trial and error, especially with your hand skills, getting in that simulation clinic and drilling some teeth, doing different fillings and different restorations. I think that part of that is there's some things that you can't be, um, people can only advise you so much on, and you have to do the rest of the legwork by yourself to really, get those hand skills up, get comfortable, get that muscle memory going, so that you can really get into a flow. But I think that, D3 year, there's a lot more help that can be offered, and insight, just in terms of the flow of everything. I think that's one of the hardest things to manage and get down is the flow of, patient work. But
Yep.
once you can get an idea and a grip on that, it becomes a lot easier. It's not easy, but it becomes easier for sure.
So with that in mind, would share with us what was the number one hardest thing about D2 year and
Mm.
the number one hardest thing that's been something that you are continuing to go to have to address as a D3 student right now?
So D2, I think those projects that the lab work is pretty tough. Like I remember even just setting teeth for a complete denture. And it was just really hard. I mean, it's a learning curve, They always say as the student dentist or, as a dental student, you're the scheduler, you're the dentist, you're the front office, you're the lab technician, you're the go-to guy for everything. And so I think that was one of the hardest things because I mean, for the most part, from what I've heard, once you get out and you graduate, that the lab work, is sent to the lab. You're not really doing the bulk of that. And so I think just getting myself to focus on that and like actually hone in on it and try and get really good at it was hard. I'm not saying I'm perfect at it even still, but I think that was probably one of the toughest things. And also the volume of the projects. It was always a project. It was always, something. Um, but I think that it definitely improved my understanding on, what we were doing, instead of just learning it and committing it to memory, you're using your hands. But in terms of D3,
So before you get to D3, what was the thing that you did to kind of overcome that challenge of the denture teeth being hard and the
hmm
setting of the teeth and the number of and the volume and the number of projects? What were some of the things that you implemented to make
hmm
these things a little bit more bearable as you were
Yeah.
learning and doing it?
I think one, starting starting early, that's always beneficial. And then trial and error. It's
Hmm.
all new. So I think trial and error and understanding that the first time that I set the teeth may not be right. You may take it to your professor,
Hmm.
one of the doctors, and say, I think I'm done. And they're gonna look at it and they're gonna just they might grill it, and what you thought was good is not good enough, because at the end of the day, this is going to be somebody's teeth that they're walking around with, smiling with. So it does have to be perfect in a sense. And so I think that getting okay with doing things over and over again, multiple times, is just part of the process. Like it's not
Right.
going to be the first time around. And if it is perfect the first time around, it's not always going to be like that. So I think getting used to that and getting comfortable with that made it a little bit easier. And then, like I said, just trial and error, doing it over and over
Yeah.
again. You have
And
to,
that
kind of be built up and broken down in order to get
and
to a
it's a
good place.
process. It's a process.
hmm
It's a process. It's all part of the process. Yes, you have to learn how to set the teeth. But also there's another yes at the end of graduation, which is yes, you will not have to do this anymore.
hmm
Right? You will not have to
Yeah.
set the teeth unless you are, applying and want to become a board certified prosthodontist, where you'll be
hmm
doing a lot of the lab work like you did in dental school all over again. However, the process is also training you to make sure that you know how the teeth need to be aligned in the setup so that when you do get it from the lab, right? The lab that you're going to be using, you can see the things and the details, how it needs to be set up and how it should be set up. And you'll be able to communicate with the lab technician who you are hiring and paying to do your lab work to say, you know what, let's rotate the canine, the upper left canine, a little bit more distally, tip the root of the tooth or the denture tooth. I mean, all those little details you'll
hmm
be able to communicate. So there is a a method to the madness, so to speak, in being able to have to go through and persevere through setting denture teeth and all the other projects. So just so people understand, like, why am I doing this? I'm not even going to have to do this when I graduate. I'm going to send it to the lab anyway. So I don't even want to do it. Yeah, but it's part of the process. It's part of the process. So you were saying D3 year, the things that you did to cope with some of the hardest things about D3 year.
D3, yeah, I would say, like I mentioned, the being the person that, is making, the bulk of the final decision. Of course, it has to go through other people, but you're the one who is addressing the problems firsthand. You're the one who sees everything for the first time, with these patients. And so I think that one, always brushing, keeping, you know, up to date on, everything that you learned in the past, so that when you do step into these situations, it's, solution finding is there and getting that, working that muscle. Um, because I mean, at the end of the day, we learn so much, and we do know a lot. But sometimes we forget how much we do actually know. We're not perfect, but we do know a lot more than the average person, and that's why we are considered, student dentists. And so being that person that's in the room, with the patient and giving them advice, telling them, why something is the way it is. I think that there's a confidence that you have to have. And sometimes you have to fake it till you make it, and you don't even recognize that you're not really faking it. You are that, you just have to bring it out of yourself. And there was a moment when, my practice coordinator who's, they always manage kind of what goes on in the clinic and, they oversee a lot of things. She was telling me, um, she told me that just be confident in what you're saying. She was like, what you're talking about, but you have to also exude that confidence, not only for yourself, but also for your patient as well. Um, and she said it in such a way that it really made me take two steps back and just really think like, yes, I really am the person here that needs to be confident in what I'm doing and what I'm saying. And so I think that whereas I could have taken it and been a little bit down on myself, I really took it and just thought about it and made it a positive thing. Like, you know what? Yeah, you're right. You're right. I do need to say this with confidence. And if I'm wrong, then it is what it is. But I'll learn from my mistakes, and it's okay to make those mistakes. And it's better to make them early than later on. And so just getting that confidence down, and also staying up to date with, the information that we learned. I think those were the two biggest things, that really helped me get more confident, and feel more comfortable, when, dealing with anybody. So
Yeah, that's great. Uh, makes me think of, the word mistakes. And it's
mhm,
okay to make mistakes because mistakes are part of the process, right? Part of the learning process. And the more mistakes you make, the more you are still learning or still have actual moments of learning. It's
mhm,
all part of the process, right?
exactly.
So don't be afraid of making mistakes because it's part of the process. The more mistakes you can make, the more understanding that you will have about the process or the things that you're doing in the process. Um, so let's flip it. We've been talking about some challenging things and things that you did to kind of overcome them. Flip side, the things that you've liked most. First with D2 year, what would you like most? And what are you continuing to like a lot as a D3 student so far?
Yeah. So I think with D2, one thing that I've always appreciated about dental school is the social aspect of it. You're going through a lot, you're studying a lot, you have things to do at school. But I think that even those times when you're in the pre-clinic setting, you're doing your project, you're hanging out with all of your friends, your classmates, y'all are all getting, close. Sometimes you get to just sit there and, you may not even do work for an hour, but you get to sit there and, just talk to one of your classmates. And considering we have 240 of us, you're always gonna, you may not talk to this person, but you're in the lab doing the same exact thing. So y'all are on the same boat and the same page, and you get to just like really socialize with them, get to know them better, really bond with your classmates. And I think that that's one of the most special things about dental school is, you may not have had the same path to school, but you get to, join somebody, on their path and then vice versa, and you're on a common path at that point. And, you're getting to do all these projects and, go through the emotions with them as well. And so it's a really special thing that I've always valued. And I think that being at school a lot, doing projects, D2 year, you get a lot more of that too. Um, Another thing I definitely appreciated was the decrease in amount of tests that we had to take. That was for sure. D1 it's an animal. It can be an animal. But D2 it toned down just a bit, just enough, to where you can kind of breathe a little bit. So I definitely appreciated that. Um, and you're also, starting to dip your toes in to what life is going to be like, in D3. You're, assisting in the clinic. You get to um, also, you get to be the provider, kind of like a fake provider with, a group of friends that we do, people that are in your clinic, one person will be the assistant, someone will be the provider and the patient. And you kind of get to rotate and just work on your skills before, clinic begins and leading up to clinic. So um, there's a lot of learning curves, but learning curves that you welcome, that you really are excited for. And so there's never a dull time in D2, that's for sure. Yeah.
D3 year. What about D3 year? What's some of the things that you really have enjoyed as you're getting ready to finish up your D3 year? I know it's been a transition from D2 to D3. What are the things you've liked most?
I think the biggest thing is getting to put everything that you learned into action. getting to interact with people every day, getting to talk to your patients, meet new people. It's also a social it's a social thing as well. I mean, you're definitely doing work and treating the patient, but you're also getting to know somebody. You're also, getting to, interact with someone on a daily. And that's something that I value so much about dentistry is you're not necessarily behind the computer all day. You get to actually have a personality. You get to engage with other personalities, other people, help other people out, solve issues, and be the person that someone is calling upon in a moment where they may be in extreme pain, Dental pain is severe. It hurts. And so I think that being able to help someone out in those times is a beautiful thing. Um, it brings on a self of or a sense uh of gratitude, I would say. Like you're just really gracious to even, be in that position. So I felt a lot of gratitude, and there'll be moments where I'll just stop and I'll just have a second and think to myself, like, wow, we're really um, you know, providers, and we're really, doing the thing out here, and just really, proud. And I think it's always good to have those moments where you just stop and smell the roses. And um, so yeah, I would say definitely just being able to be in this position this year has been a blessing. And I'm just really, really appreciative to be learning and um, be learning in such an environment that um, makes me want to continue to do this and, continue to grow and become a better and better provider day by day, one appointment at a time. So
Yeah.
D3 has been very, very rewarding, I would say.
Yeah. And it's rewarding too because like you said, we're helping people so that they can give you or give us our roses as it relates to thank you, right? Their way of
Hmm.
saying thank you for helping them. We all know
Exactly.
pain can be a motivator, and also loss or fear of losing something or fear of having more pain in the future can be a motivator for people, and then for us to be able to have those solutions and help people with it. um, there are some people that are just immensely gracious and very thankful that as their oral health consultant we're able to provide that for them. So yeah, it is. It's a heavy responsibility, but it's a responsibility filled with gratitude for both the person that we're helping and us as individuals as well. So thanks for sharing that. Tips. We've got um people who are listening and watching as they're starting dental school for the first time or as they are transitioning into one of the 4 years of dental school, typically the second or third year. What are some tips for those students who are listening now or future students who will be listening, for those to get and be prepared for the second year and third year of dental school? What knowing what you know now, what would you do differently, and or what would you want to share that they must do in order
Hmm.
to be able to get through this process called D2, get through this process called D3 year?
Oh yeah. I think one continue to stay curious, um, first year it can wear you out a bit, but continuing and never forgetting why you're doing what you're doing, keeping that at the forefront of your mind will always, help you in the hard times of dental school. Um, I would say always finding an outlet, for stress, making sure that you're staying on top of your health, physical and mental health. Is going to be the one thing that keeps you going, day by day. I think that, working out, if you need to meditate, go for a walk, do whatever you need to do to stay in tip-top shape mentally and physically, because if you don't have your mental or your physical, no work is going to get done. And so I would say if someone asks me what's the one thing that has helped you the most through dental school, I will every single time without doubt say, you know, my physical and mental routine, day in and day out. I think that's one of the biggest things that can help you through school. Um, hmm, man, we go through so much in dental school. It's like there's so many lessons every day. Every day it feels like you're learning something else. But D2, just staying locked in, staying down and, really focusing on your projects. Understand that you're learning this, to apply it. You're not just learning it for it to go in one ear and out the other, but you're learning it to apply it. So when you're doing something, don't just go through the motions, but really go through, the motions for understanding, and with understanding and, trying to truly, know why you're doing what you're doing. You're not just doing it for fun. I don't think anybody wants to pay dental school tuition just for fun. You're doing this to ultimately, provide this service to somebody else, at a high quality. And so I think that's one of the things I would definitely say. Um,
Now you mentioned something else about D2 earlier that I thought was very important that I know I didn't do, which was you said start early on those projects.
yeah,
Those lab
yeah,
projects, you know?
it's tough. It's tough. I mean, because you don't only just have lab projects, you also have schoolwork, you have life. So there's a number of other factors that can play into, starting early, but when you can do so, there's nothing worse than getting down to the wire and, doing something last minute. It's gonna happen, but trying to limit how many times it happens is ideal. Um, but yeah, definitely starting early is key with anything,
Right,
with anything really in dental
right,
school.
right. Anything that you would do differently now that you've been through D2 and even the first semester of D3?
Yeah, definitely.
You say yeah.
Definitely. I think that the one thing, there's a few things I would say. Um, One downside to being in such a large school, I would say, is, the ability to kind of just like not skate by, but, you don't have to, be in, super, super, super intimate, settings with your professors. So, class, you have such a large class that like it's easy to just go to class, and leave. But, whereas at a school that may have like a 40, 50, 60 size, class, you're going to know your professor. And so I think that one thing that I didn't do the best job at was, going to like necessarily going to class and also meeting, my professors and getting to know them a lot better. Because, these are people that are well established. They're doing amazing things in the field. And just getting to know them and, really learn from them, even beyond the lecture that they give. I think that's one thing that I wish I did more was, just, getting to know them a little bit better. I think that, like I said, it's when you're in a class size such so large, it's easy to kind of just, move by. But I do wish that I, um, you know, talked to my professors a little bit more. Just, got to hear from them a bit more because I think that I really recognized that once I got into the clinic and I did start to talk to those doctors and the people that are supervising you a lot more, they have a lot to offer besides, outside of whatever they teach you in these lectures. So I would say definitely just go and just introduce yourself. Just say hello. You never know, so um, and then ooh, another thing I kind of wish I wish I did, research. I know there's a lot of going on during dental school. Um, but I do wish that I did start some research a little bit early, because there's so many projects going on and being at, a huge research institution, like Tufts that does do a lot of research. I think that there's a lot that you miss out on if you don't, partake. And not to say that's too late, I do plan on, getting into some, but it's just later on. But, I think I wish I didn't get so bogged down in my schoolwork and my, my projects. Um, and kind of widen that tunnel vision a little bit, just enough to, expand and make room for like a little bit more, a little bit more knowledge and things that are outside of your the things that you learn or that everybody learns, kind of venturing off into, a little side quest and okay, I'm just gonna, see what this research project is about. Maybe it'll interest me. And you never know where that may take you. So I do wish I did
Right.
that a little bit earlier, but it's never too late. So that's one of my, my goals with this next year for sure.
And I'm glad that you mentioned that because it goes in alignment with what you said about being curious.
Hmm.
But it also goes in alignment with what you said that you would wish you had done differently. And there's still time, but it's a little bit different now as a D3, D4 student than it is the first 2 years where you're right in front of professors all the time in class, which is interact more with professors because guess what? Like you said, many of them are doing research
Hmm.
or involved in research, especially the ones that are tenured professors and faculty members. It's part of their contract, it's part of their duties, responsibilities, and obligations as a professor at the institution. And they need help.
Hmm.
So, for those of you who are listening and watching, there's still time, meaning uh, doing research doesn't necessarily only mean that you have to be the lead in the research project. You could be one of the assistants. You can be part of the research team. And again, if it's not professors or faculty that are looking for help, there are residents in the post-grad programs that are doing research that are as part of their curriculum. Guess what? They need help too. So if you have an interest in doing research, those are some places that you can explore. Those are some individuals that you can make connections with because there is still time, right? Um, there's still time to ask a professor or someone that you liked in a particular class, hey, Dr. Smith, I'm interested. What research are you currently doing, or projects are you working on, or do you know anyone in the department or in the post grad residency programs that are doing some research? Who can I talk to? Who can you refer me to? Oh, student Dr. Zion, come on, we're gonna go up to the endo clinic and somebody's doing some research you may be interested in. I don't know if you're interested in endo or not. And then there's so and so in ortho, and then there's so and so in materials. I mean, boom. Now you've got the opportunity to continue to develop this relationship with your professors, but also you get to continue to explore and be curious because it only takes one thing or one exposure to something that may lead you to, you know what, I really liked this information about the materials and these brackets and this cement. I may want to pursue ortho. I may want to pursue pros. I may want to pursue endo or the vice or the opposite. I don't want to do that. I definitely don't want
Hmm.
to do that.
Yeah.
But even that's part of the learning experience. So for those of you that are listening to this and may have kind of feel, oh man, I didn't get a chance to do any research. There's still time. There's still
Plenty
time.
of it.
There's still time. You just gotta go to the professor, go to the faculty member, and just ask the question
Hmm.
and let that guide you to your next steps. So there's definitely some more time to be involved with research more. Anything else you would do differently besides those two things,
Anything else I would do differently?
or things that you're planning to do that may be different than what you've been doing?
Um, ooh, definitely. Definitely. I feel like it every day is like it's an ever adjusting situation. Like I'm always changing something, because you're always receiving feedback at the same time. Every day, when you're, in the clinic, which is where we spend the majority of our time now, you're always learning something. So you're always learning how to do something better. So I wouldn't say there's necessarily one thing um right now that, I would say I need absolutely to do this better. I mean, there's plenty of things, but I think that they all come up gradually. And it's I feel like it's sequenced out, well, like in clinic specifically. Um, because we're always receiving feedback. You're always the next day. When I go home, I'm like, dang, I didn't do this right. I didn't do this right. I need to do this better. I'm like, I missed this. I missed this one restoration on my page 13. Like, I need to be a little more attentive. Um, I need to be this, that. And there's always something to work on, I would say. I can't pinpoint anything right now specifically. But um, just becoming a better like communicator. I think a supreme communicator in the clinic is one of my goals and one thing that I really want to be really, really good at. We learn about this thing called plain language and explaining things to our patients in the most simple language possible so that they understand. You're not trying to talk to them like they're a child because these are grown adults. But you just want them to understand, explain things in a way that is super, super understandable, that they never forget. And that you also encourage them in the midst of that, encouraging them to also make their oral health a priority. Um, and so I think that just being a better communicator is one thing that I really, really want to get good at before, going out into the real world and treating patients. So not that we're not
Absolutely.
doing it now, but I really want to hone in on that and be able to like explain things to them and help them understand and, also get on board with what you're saying and not try and go against you. I mean,
Yeah.
I feel like it's inevitable, but trying to minimize that, the times that may happen is, the best that I can do. And that's the goal of
Yeah.
mine for sure.
And aside and an important part of that is something that's aside of strengthening your communication, which is listening.
Hmm.
Listening. So for those of you that are listening right now, you're listening with two ears,
Yeah.
right? Listening twice as much as you talk. That's one of the ways that you improve and strengthen your communication too, especially with the fact that we know a lot of information. But here's the deal. People don't care how much we know until they know how much we care,
Hmm.
right? Maya Angelou, I think it's Maya Angelou, or
That's
she
a
has
word right there.
a version of it, right? People don't care how much we know until they know how much we care. And part of that is listening to the person that we're serving, finding out
Hmm.
and and having enough emotional intelligence to know what it is, because that will now enhance how we communicate and their understanding of what we know, right? They're not at the same level of training that we've had or that you're going through as a dental student. So they're not going to know all the technical and be able to visualize certain things. So yeah, you've got to be very, very good through your communication. And half of it is listening, right?
That is so true. So
Is
true.
listening. So keep that in mind as you are continuing to strengthen your communication during your dental school years, because it becomes even more important after dental school.
Yeah.
And you will learn, here's the other piece too, Doc. You will learn that there are going to be some people that you're not going to be able to help
Yeah.
just from listening.
Yeah. Exactly.
And you're going to need to be able to communicate and say, well, I understand, Miss Jones. You don't have to do it. It's your mouth. You can get a second opinion as well
Yep.
and be okay
And
with that, right?
yeah. Yeah.
And they
You
will
can't
receive
do it
that.
all.
No, you can't do it all, and you can't do it all for everybody.
Hmm.
And that's okay. But that's part of the learning process through communication, through repetition, through, like you mentioned, as a third thing you would do differently, which is continuing to do those daily assessments, right? Recalling,
Yeah.
like you said, at the end of the day, all right, I did this, did that. All right, I need to tweak this. I need to add this. I need to, like, having time to make sure that you are evaluating your actions while you're in this learning environment, because guess what, it does translate, it will translate into life after dental school as a provider,
Exactly.
right? As a doc as well. Um, what are you excited about with this upcoming D4 year besides graduation, right?
Ooh.
Graduation in 2027, Boston. I already know the Atlanta crew is coming, but
Oh yeah.
besides besides graduation, what else are you really excited about this upcoming D4 year?
I think now that we have, some experience under our belt, I'm really just excited to fine tune and continue to just see the growth that, you know, we're really like harvesting. We've learned a lot, we're learning a lot. And so I'm just really excited to see where, how much more growth happens and really just admire the growth, little by little. And really just taking it all in. Also enjoying the time with, my classmates, um, because we only have a year left now. And so, really enjoying that time and taking that in, and, enjoying the city of Boston. Of course, I got to throw in graduation, but I'm okay pacing myself towards that finish line because I think that when you're in your first year, you're excited. You're like, "Ooh, I can't wait to graduate. I can't wait to
Right,
graduate."
right.
But more recently, I've gotten to the point where I'm like, I'm really okay with the pace that we're going. It's moving fast, but I mean, in the day to day, it does move. It moves a little bit slower, because you're doing so much, and you have lab work, you have patient work, you have school work, you have this, you have that, and I'm just appreciating it a lot more, and taking it one step at a time because I recognize that once I leave, this building, Tufts, I'm on my own, and so I'm really just appreciating the time that I have with people that are, you know, have been doing this for a long time, that they know these things and being able to soak in information from them, and just kind of get all of it and compile all of that and add it to my toolbox, and really just hone in on everything that we've learned. So um, I'm excited for this next semester, and fourth year as well. It's going to be a lot. We have boards, we have um, all kinds of different licensure exams and whatnot. So it's gonna be a dogfight for sure. But I mean, we've been prepared for this for the last, for our lives. Undergrad, dental school, we've been prepared for this, and so it's nothing new. Is it challenging? For sure. But I mean, I think that we're ready for it, and we've been prepped for this for these times. So I'm excited. I'm excited to, see what all of it brings, and, all the challenges always bring about um some newfound skills or growth. You see what you're capable of even when you don't think you're capable, you're more than capable because, we make it through. So I think that's the biggest thing. So
Yeah.
I'm really excited for, what 2026 has to bring, and surely 2027,
Yeah.
May of
Yeah.
2027 to be
May
exact.
2027. I'm sure somebody in your class got a countdown already,
Oh yeah.
but there's still so many things to do. And you're right, the time will fly, man. It's gonna fly, especially when
Yeah.
you have a lot of things to check off and do on your list. So soak it
Hmm.
in, take each day at a time, and enjoy the ride because it's coming.
Oh yeah. Oh
It's
yeah. I
coming.
have to.
Yep, it's coming. Any, do you have any projects that you're working on that are currently in the works that also may be coming besides graduation 2027? That's a project, right? But any other extracurriculars or things that you are interested in that are school related, not school related, that you're excited about or that you are kind of also doing at the same time, or things that you want to share with us?
Yeah. Um, I guess one school related, I would say I'm part of the Student National Dental Association, so SNDA. I'm actually the treasurer for our chapter at Tufts. So, we have a lot of, exciting events that we do. We recently had an impressions day that was really amazing. And it was so cool to see
And
all
what's
the,
an Impressions Day?
pre-dents.
So, yeah, what is
Yeah.
Impression Days for people who may not know?
So Impressions Day is essentially it's a day where we have pre-dent students come to Tufts. So they kind of get, a lot of information from admissions about, things, to do's, not to do's, with your application, just a bunch of application tips. You also get to make an impression, with, alginate, that most people have probably taken at the dentist at some point in time. So you get to make an alginate impression. You get a tour of the school. Um, you get panels, and just a bunch of information, to help you make an informed decision when it comes down to, do I want to go to school here or do I not want to go to school here? What do I like about this school and what do I not like? And so we had a really successful Impressions Day. And it was really amazing just to see, all the pre-dent students and remember how we were just in those seats, what feels like a year ago. So it was really amazing and I was just grateful to be a part of that. And then outside of school, me and my brother do have a matcha business called Zen Matcha. So, we hold different events, with yoga instructors, art studios, at different event venues, where, we may pop up and serve matcha, and collaborate with different people. And we also sell our matcha online. And so being able to have that on the side, aside from dental school is always nice because it's a break, where we get to pour our creativity into something a little bit different, and kind of pour back into ourselves, into a project that we love and that we, share, um, so yeah, but there's a lot going on. There's a lot going on, a lot to be done. But
Yeah,
I'm
man.
excited. So
Well, I can relate to two of those projects. I was SNDA treasurer. What's that? No, I was not for my chapter. For the chapter, I was president, but I think, yeah, for national, I was national treasurer,
oh
SNDA
wow.
back in the day. Yep, yep. And it's a great time collaborating and leading with other students throughout the country, which is always great, great opportunity to network, meet other people. And then the matcha thing. Yeah, you got me on this matcha, man. I gotta get me some Zen matcha though.
Yes, sir.
And
Yes,
we'll
sir. We got to get you a
put
10.
yeah, man, we'll put a link in the down below so you guys can check that out. What is it? Zenmatcha.com? What is
Yes.
it?
Yep, it's Zen Matcha. And Zen is spelled XEN and then matcha.com.
There it
Yes,
is.
indeed.
Zen Matcha.
Get yourself a 10.
Zenmatcha.com. Yep. Um, yeah, because great opportunity, like you said, to take care of yourself, mental and
hmm
physical health,
Exactly.
right?
Exactly.
Making
It
sure
all
you
plays
have
in.
things all plays in. All plays in. Well, we've really appreciated you being a player today and playing with us and playing with this whole notion of surviving dental school and surviving more specifically the D2 and D3 years. And now you guys have a better idea as to what to expect.
Oh
D2,
yeah.
D3 years, those challenges, things, ways to kind of overcome them as well. Doc, what's a way that people can get in contact with you if they have some additional questions, or whether it's about Zen Matcha, whether it's about Tufts, whether it's
Yeah.
about, different things? What's the best way?
So anyone can always shoot me a message via Instagram. My Instagram is my first name Xion dot my last name Johnson. And then same thing on TikTok, or you can shoot me a message as well. I'm always responding to messages, for pre-dents, and just kind of giving them any advice that they may need. If you ever have a question, um, always feel free to shoot me a message. If it's about the personal statement, whatever it is. My DMs are always open. I'm always checking my messages, so feel free to reach out and just know that you'll always get a response. So
There you go. Contact student Dr. Xion at Xion.Johnson on Instagram. There you go. And no, you're not
indeed.
gonna get no free samples of Zen Matcha. Sorry.
Yeah.
But you can get some, right?
Indeed, you can get
Give
some
them, you can
matcha,
get some, you can get some matcha. Get your
it just may
matcha
not be
on,
free.
right? right?
Indeed.
I don't have my quarter zip on right now, but
Yeah, we got to
you
get you a
know,
quarter zip and some
give
matcha
me a
now,
quarter
bye.
zip. Yep, and some matcha. You know what? I got an idea. Once y'all have some quarter zip with the matcha logo
Is
on the
in my,
side.
you know what? I need to go work on that. I need to
That's
go
it,
work on
yeah.
that.
And
Yeah, that's
I
coming. That's for
I
sure.
volunteer my chest and my arms and my shoulders to wear it, you know.
All right, look, we got the first delivery for you, Doc.
There you go. Get my matcha on. Get my quarter zip
Indeed.
and my matcha on as I tackle uh, life as a dental student at Tufts, but also just as a dental school student surviving the D2, D3 year. So hope this episode has been helpful for you guys. And if it hasn't, guess what? We got a whole lot of other episodes that we know will be helpful. But you got to go to the next episode. Go to the next episode right now. Go.